I'll start off with this one. When you look this up on IMDb, the first thing it says in terms of crazy credits is Walt Disney Pictures presents a David Lynch film.
Yeah.
But I mean, Walt Disney also did Tim Burton, right?
Oh yeah, some things,
Yeah,
yeah.
but Tim Burton is
That's an
Tim
easier
Burton
adjustment.
is like fucking Walt Disney compared to David Lynch most of the time.
Right. He still brought it. If you
Who
ask me,
produced Elephant Man?
I couldn't tell you who did that. It was might have been Fox, but
Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
true,
Right.
true.
Mhm.
I think that's Paramount.
Yeah, but
Um,
go ahead, Ted.
No, I think it was UA.
this movie is not good.
Okay.
Like it's
Chris.
there's so many
Hereby
there's so many there's
authorized.
so many parts of this movie that are good, but the movie itself is just so fucking weird and like I don't think understands what it or the audience wants. Like this is the best scene in the movie by far.
That,
Like
it's a hell of a
E
scene.
definitely one of the best scenes
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
no, this is the best, but this is the best scene by far. Also, it suffers from not enough Harry Dean Stanton.
Mm.
Like there,
Oh,
there
man, but when
should
he
be-
shows up, though, it breaks your heart.
it does, but
Yeah.
there should be more Harry Dean Stanton
Okay.
in this movie.
All right. Well,
I
anyway,
don't disagree. I
one
don't
thing
dis-
about this is like I think he was given a straightforward assignment to make this film, this biopic, basically about a real man. It was the thing that really
He
happened.
wanted to make this.
Yeah, he wanted to
went
make this film,
out
and so it was innocuous enough in terms of a story that Disney said we're going to finance this because really,
no,
it's,
they just picked it up
but
for
he
distribution.
still managed to put a lot of Lynchian weirdness in this.
That entire scene with the woman and the deer.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, and that keeps paying out too.
That
It's like
entire fucking scene.
the
The
whole
scene with the
scene.
woman and the deer.
That's the
scene-
other good scene.
The There are scene many with good the scene with the hitchhiker who's pregnant. It
Mm-hmm.
like
That was
there-
interesting.
I think that's a really interesting scene because there's that moment where he's like, you can be with your family or you can just be hanging out here with an old guy who's riding across the country in a lawnmower.
Uh-huh.
And she realizes like, no, I don't want to do that. And then she leaves that bundle of sticks tied up
Yeah.
and is just like, you convinced me. Like here's my love letter to you.
But that's where it feels a little pat to me. As Sheila said, everybody gets the lesson that they need in this movie, and
Yeah,
it's
well, of
with
course.
the two brothers that are fighting, and it's he relates, of course, to his own dispute with his own brother, and so he gives them a little lecture, and that they're going to be better from then on.
This is
You know
why
what? That's interesting, John.
That's why Disney picked it up.
I really don't think that's true at all. I think that this film is there's a payoff at the end. He reaches his goal, but it's so experiential. It's like the woman who hits all the deer didn't get paid off.
No, she does not. She does. She's a Lynchian.
But there's other characters that come in here, and
Roxanne.
there's displays of basic kindness you see from a lot of people, which is great.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of ties into the region and the people who live there. But there's
except for his friends who are shitheads. Like his friends are fucking shitheads.
Well, they're gonna
like,
the people back in hometown are gonna like, you're not riding across 300 miles.
Right. They're just sitting there waiting for him to come riding back, and sure enough, he does.
Yeah, right.
First of the two lawnmowers.
If the movie had been made now, all the shithead friends and him would just have a podcast.
Yeah. He just put his brother on Zoom, and that'd be the end of it, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I was going to mention. I can't remember.
Well, while you're thinking, I'll just say one of the things I do like about it is that David Lynch does take pains to remind you, oh, it's a David Lynch movie. You betcha. And it's not just
that scene in the backyard where it's the sprinklers kind of going and that ball rolls in there.
Yeah.
Kid comes and picks
Yeah,
it up.
I
That was
waited
the
5 minutes.
Well,
it's so
like
it's
a
so
reference
weird.
to M.
Yeah,
It's so weird to find out later that she had children who were taken away by the state.
Yeah.
Like the way that she's looking at that kid out the window is such a like, I wish I had children moment.
Yeah.
And then you find out later when he's talking.
Yeah, it's one of he gives you that, and then later it makes sense.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
I think you pointed out perfectly, Tad. That he set it up, and you're watching a David Lynch film. It's like, oh, it's just David Lynchian random weirdness. Then it pays off.
Oh, it never felt random to me.
I
Like
just
it
I
it
thought
it,
that
it
felt
felt
random to me.
so much to me like this is her desire for a child.
Yeah,
And like finding out later that she had children
they got
and
taken away.
the state took them away
Mhm.
because there was a fire and one of them got badly burned in the fire, which she had nothing to do with,
Yet.
is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is.
Like it's really brutal. Like there are moments in this G-rated movie that are just fucking tragic.
They are.
Like I had these real moments of like sadness and anger about the way these characters were treated by the world.
Right.
Like, and his daughter especially, like
Also, fantastic performance.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
Sissy Spacek is so fucking good in this.
God,
Like,
just the way that she just lays out the way she talks and kind of
Mhm.
that's just because it leaves you to decide, is she really mentally impaired or is this like a
no, she's mentally impaired.
yeah,
And in the moment, like the moment where she's like, I painted the roof red, and she's like, I'm gonna make the next one blue, and then they're outside and she's painting the roof blue on the next house, and
right?
it's soul crushing. It's
It is.
just like Jesus fuck. You when you find out what she's been through, it's way harder. Like it's
Mhm.
way harder to sit
Uh,
through that
Her,
story.
her
Yeah,
world is so small now.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it could have affected her.
Well, she lives in Lawrence, Iowa,
There you
too.
go.
That
There's
was the thing I was going to say about Lynch is that I mean, in the whole setup scene where like they come out of the bar and it's like where is he and they go looking for him. He's really good at sort of finding the weirdness in the prosaic because it's very everyday. It's very people you would see if you went to a small town, but it's just that Lynch,
Yeah.
it's just a
yeah,
little bit off.
right.
Well,
It's
the
also
scene
the way they all
the
relate
scene
to
of him on the
that
ground,
opening
and
sequence.
Yes.
and
On the
he gets
floor.
into the argument with his buddy and with the woman who's trying to call
Yeah,
911.
they're all arguing at the same time. Yeah.
And he's like, no, don't do that. No,
Yeah,
I'm fine. Like it's cool.
yeah.
Like
Well,
What's the
Lynch,
number for 911?
yeah, Lynch, I think he grew up in Missouri. I think near Hannibal or
You
something
can
like that, somewhere
tell.
in the middle of the state. And so this is simply what he grew up with more corn.
Yeah.
And so it's
Well, Sweeney also grew up in Wisconsin, the woman who
oh
edited
yeah,
the
yeah, that's
movie
right.
and wrote
She
half the
she brought in a
screenplay.
lot of she brought a lot into this film, I think.
Yeah.
he didn't write this. This
No, he
is the
didn't. This
only
is
film he's ever directed that he didn't write.
mhm,
Like
yeah. Well,
it's him coming into somebody else's script,
mhm.
and I think it misses a little bit because of that. Like I think he maybe doesn't have the connection to it that he
Maybe.
has to his own work.
Mhm.
Like it
There is I see what you're making. There's some places where it feels a little on the surface.
right, a little
Yeah.
he's a
It's a
little
little
pulled
distant. Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It gets closer near the end, like the part in the bar behind you.
Oh, for
When
sure.
your last 10 minutes are just this conversation behind Tad is just like it brings everything into context because you realize that this character, straight, and almost everybody else his age are basically doing it's a greatest generation thing. They fought the war, they don't talk about it, they isolate
And then
themselves.
they talk to each other about it, and
Yeah,
it's
Mhm.
brutal.
it is brutal. Yeah.
And when you realize
Mhm.
his whole thing about like, oh, this scout brought us all this way. He was such a little guy.
Mhm.
And like then you realize he's the one who killed him.
Right.
It's just heartbreaking. Like
Yeah.
there are so many good scenes in this movie, and I just wish I liked it better, but it overstays its welcome. It's so long. So many of these scenes take forever to get through. Like it
No, I can see that this is Lynch's his pace is usually not this deliberate.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different than and it has a different feel than most of his other films. It's
If
just,
this movie was 20 minutes shorter, I think I would have liked it a lot more.
yeah, maybe it's
The
possible.
second,
You could have actually cut some of the weirdness out and get a little more straightforward with it.
Right.
But like I said, it's pretty miraculous in terms of it being made and being G-rated and what it says and how it connects, because it's too easy to write the stuff off as like a, can you imagine like some lesser filmmaker making the story and it's just like horns and violins and
strings and
the heroic way of going across the Midwest in a tractor, and a, you know, a running bar. Also, about 300 and something miles. That's like you guys getting in a lawnmower and going to Fresno. So that's like, it wasn't easy, man. It was not easy.
I
Actually, I think
Googled
it's longer.
on Google Maps,
Mhm.
and it's almost a straight line. He
Yeah,
goes to-
right.
basically, and then he goes north after he crosses the
Yeah, all
Mississippi.
I have to do is cross Iowa and then go north a little bit in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was you know, I haven't seen this in a very long time, and I think it still it holds up, I think, pretty well in terms of telling a story.
I want to point out that the part where Farnsworth comes out with the shotgun and then goes and shoots his tractor
Mhm.
is really uncomfortable knowing what happens to him.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of hard to separate that.
Year after this movie came out.
Yeah, and that's
Like what, like a month.
also
Like
he
Oh,
wasn't
he killed himself in October 2020. This movie came out in May
2000.
May 1999.
Yeah,
made
2000,
2000.
2000, sorry.
But
Yeah.
he was not faking. He wasn't acting his paralysis. That was really happening, and so
Yeah, he's dying of bone cancer through
In
this
this movie.
entire movie.
Yeah,
And like that's really difficult to watch.
Oh, is that why he took his own life?
Yeah.
yeah,
Cancer?
pretty much. Yeah,
Okay.
It's in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
The pain and suffering that he was going through is unfathomable.
Mhm.
Like
Well,
and
yeah.
and the people who worked on this movie with him were like blown away by how professional and kind and like invested he was.
Mm.
And like it's really difficult to watch in that context. Like when you know that this
It's a
is the
bit like
last thing.
Spencer Tracy and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Because
Yeah, that is actually kind of hard to watch because he's dying during that film. It's weird.
Yeah.
And he's dying during this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Also, yeah, it's like there's a couple of films I could go and list off that, you know, the actors is actually literally checking out, like Richard Jordan in Gettysburg. He was very sick when he made that film.
Even John Wayne in The Shootist.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know, it came out pretty good, and it doesn't say it. I think that David Lynch had a respectful approach to the material, and it may have been a little distant, but I think he treated everybody, even the jerks back at home, with a certain like, this is their world, this is the place they live in, and it is slower and smaller than we're used to, and you can see that it's easier for people to care about other people, and it just comes across really well in this because everywhere he stops, he's basically runs into kind people or people who kill a lot of deer. I'm not sure exactly how that
I
fits
found
in.
myself thinking about David Byrne's movie. What's it called?
True
True stories.
True
Not online.
Stories. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Except
A little
that was
bit.
a lot weirder.
Lynch is a little less condescending, I think, than
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Well, Lynch is David Byrne's from New York, right?
yeah, right.
Probably near New York anyway.
Yeah.
And Lynch is like from
Missouri.
much like this, Missouri.
Yeah,
much
yeah,
like-
yeah, it's okay. But yeah. So like I said, I picked it because I haven't seen this in a long time. And
It was good to see it again. I liked it better the first time, and I did feel some of the complaints Tad's making about it just being a little bit too deliberate,
Mhm.
and maybe a little bit too, like again, somebody else wrote it, and you can tell it's just sort of got a couple of little neat.
the passion just isn't there.
Well, you know, it's not
Yeah.
maudlin, which is interesting because it'd be so easy for this to be maudlin.
Oh my God, yes, it could have
Yeah,
been.
Well,
that's
a normal
I think
Disney
it-
movie.
I think
would-
it walks right up to that line, and
It does several times.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
And the bundle of sticks, it was just like really okay. All
You know,
right.
that was probably the most maudlin part. But
Yeah.
there's lots of places where they could have gone, well, bring up the strings, and they didn't do it. And and I respect the film for that. In terms
And
of
that kind of, I would be glad to think that it maybe challenged some audience goers who had never seen a David Lynch and would never seek one out and went to see this, because of what it was.
You know what? I would probably use this as someone who wanted to dip into David Lynch's filmography. It's a good start.
Could
'Cause
be.
it mostly feels like a familiar.
Or you just show them a racer head and throw them in the deep end.
Or
Well,
Twin
like
Peaks.
like the rest of us,
Just
right?
watch Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is really good.
It's actually very straightforward, and that Twin Peaks is really it's much soapier than you think it is. I mean,
I
yeah. But I guess that's good.
I
but
didn't
this-
watch Twin Peaks until I was like 19. Like,
Oh.
believe me, I know how soapy it is, but it's fun as hell.
It is fun.
Like,
It's got a good sense of humor, the entire show.
Yeah.
But was this around before, during, or after Twin Peaks?
This
what is
Yeah.
way after?
way after.
Way
Okay.
after.
But this was
Yeah.
after Fire Walk with Me and everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Firewalk with Me is like 94
And in fact,
or something
this
like
is
that.
99. In 2001, he did Mulholland Drive.
Three.
Right.
Yeah. So, and
This is such an anomaly. Isn't
I know
it?
that's not odd.
Yeah.
So he's probably
Again,
doing-
a G-rated David Lynch
Mhm,
film,
mhm.
which was fucking put out by Disney.
Yeah,
Like Disney
good.
bought this after Cannes and was like, all right, we're just gonna release this
Mhm.
wide because we don't have anything on the schedule this week.
Mhm.
And
It did okay. It didn't set the world on fire.
no,
but-
it didn't. I remember the advertising for this, and my response to the advertising for this was much like my response to the movie, which is, why the fuck would I want to watch this?
Mhm.
Like, I don't care about this old man's trip on his tractor, but
But
That's
what
the
do you
thing,
know?
You're supposed to, and that's the thing. That's the selling point.
I just want to point out that Chris has been so quiet, and he's just been sitting over there making faces.
Yeah, and
Like he's just
in his own tractor yard too.
Yes, I think we need Chris's corner now.
Okay, Chris.
I've never disagreed with some of you more.
Uh-oh.
This fucking episode. So I thought I'd seen this. And I
Uh-huh.
think actually what really happened was I had the same reaction to the marketing that Tad did, which was, I don't need to see that. And then I just sort of convinced myself that I'd seen it. And so, because I'm watching this going, wait a minute, I don't think I've fucking seen this movie. And I loved every fucking second. And not just because some of my happiest moments are when I'm around on this.
Is that your weekend? That's
in
your
my
weekend
yard.
zen? Your weekend zen's getting on the tractor.
Weekend of Zen is when I'm on the back of this thing. So shit, where do I start? I love yeah, all the stuff you guys have mentioned, the haunting quality of Richard Farnsworth's eyes.
Oh,
Like you really can feel this character through his
feel
eyes.
that he's dying.
And nobody, you guys mentioned Angelo Badalamenti's music, which I thought was sublime. I thought the cinematography was amazing. There's a couple of shots of the harvesters going through the cornfields, which reminded me of the spice harvesters in Dune. Lynch's
Chris, sorry. What about the shot when all of the bikes are going past him and there's that one from a helicopter
Mhm.
that you see and you just see the sea of bikes going past him? Like that's incredible. Like
is.
I again don't want to give a lot to this movie, but like that moment of seeing all of those bike riders going by him was fucking cool.
it was.
And like even the close-up shots of him like waving to them, they just been like, hi, hey, how you going? How
Because that
hey.
it has to be done within less than a second, right? Hi, you doing? See you.
Yeah.
Wait, there's a so I'm like 100% bought into this thing. And then
Wow.
we get to the bar. Oh yeah, and then we get to the bar scene,
Mhm.
and there's a speech that actually I can't remember who he has the speech with. It's pre the bar scene where he's talking about, you know, nobody really knows you other than your brother.
Right.
And you guys all, because I've talked about it on the show, you know, I
Mhm.
lost my brother in 2009. So I've got daddy issues and brother issues. And when we get to the part where I understand, like, yeah, it would have been nice to have more Harry Dean, except that when it counts,
Yeah.
and Harry Dean turns his head and looks at, and you don't have to see anything other than like, oh fuck, Harry Dean just realized what he's done.
Mhm.
You came all the way here to see me in that.
Uh-huh.
That's basically like and like at that point, I'm fucking out.
No,
Like I am on the floor.
you're
Out.
curled up into a ball.
I am
basically.
fucking wiped out. This movie like clobbered me with a baseball bat.
Wow.
I like, and it made me really think about like David Lynch and the entire oeuvre. And the reality is, when I look at the pile,
Mhm.
and I mean, like, John, do you remember years and years and years ago when I brought the VHS of On the Air to your house?
Yes.
Watched the first episode.
Oh yeah.
One of the funniest fucking half hours of comedy I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Even though the rest of it really didn't match up. But you just go through the list, man. Eraserhead, Elephant Man, Blueville, Wild at Heart. I mean, there's things I like about Dune, even though it's bonker. Like the entire
The bonkerness is what you like about it.
there's so many, like, fuck, sometimes I think I take this guy for granted. The second season of the third season of Twin Peaks, which contains the single weirdest hour of television I've ever seen.
Oh my God, so good.
Like
Need
the
to watch
guy,
it.
the guy has way more hits. Even his misses are interesting.
Yeah, that's a good
And
way of
I
putting it.
found him doing a G-rated movie about a guy driving across Iowa on his lawn tractor it was like for me anyway, like an equal amount of heart without the sappiness and the pathos, with just enough things to remind you you're watching a David Lynch movie. I don't know. I give this movie a fucking 10. I love it.
Right.
Every fucking second.
Also, that the scene behind you when you were watching it, I just watched it just before we started, the show, was, Farnsworth sits down on the porch with his brother, and and it starts out fairly normally. Everyone's kind of guarded and reserved, like he comes on his walker and he sits down, and it goes from wide to close up, and you see their eyes just getting wetter and wetter and wetter as they go. It's like, man, it's so powerful.
Harry Dean with this look, with like you just you see it, like his whole face changes in that moment.
Yeah.
I was just like,
and also the interesting way of cutting away, not to just the sky, but the stars, kind of doing that Star Trek thing.
Yeah,
moving around. But that gave it such.
They do that twice in the movie, and it's fucking weird.
Well, they use an Elephant Man too, actually. But it's just, I think that I think that has a lot to do with David Lynch and his meditation. He's he's into TM, and he's probably connecting with the eternal with this a little bit. They're looking up in the sky, but they're seeing the totality of everything when they look up.
Yeah, it's not a literal looking up at the sky. It's a symbolic looking up at
you're looking up at everything.
Yeah, but there is the moment in the movie where they are literally looking up at the sky, and Sissy Spacek, who again is so fucking good in this, is just laying on that blanket and just staring up at the sky and talking about what she's seeing. And it's beautiful. And
so you think destroying directly kind of ruined it a little bit?
I wish the end of this, where Harry Dean Stanton shows up and they have that conversation and they look up at the sky together. I wish that moment had that beauty. Like my problem with this movie is, like, I just don't feel it at the end.
Oh, okay.
I
guess we're all approaching this differently, so that's
that's.
I was like, please, I literally am going, please end the movie right now. Please end the movie right now.
I think
you didn't want more Harry Dean Stanton. It was the exact right amount then.
I was like, end it right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the payoff. Okay, Jim needs a corner. Look how far back he is.
I enjoyed it a lot. It may be one of my favorite David Lynch movies. I liked the length and the sort of contemplative riding along. It is a road movie. I mean, it's a very
that's a certain genre.
I love road movies.
And was the lady that he meets, the hitchhiker that's knocked up, isn't that the checker that sells the Braunschweiger to his daughter Rose?
I don't think
she says the same thing about
I gotta go back and look now.
Party town.
Oh,
I'm not sure. If it is, it's great.
This is like top tier Lynch for me. This one,
yeah.
And I mean, and that's a really big list. Like what I would consider top tier Lynch is a big fucking pile. This goes in that pile.
I mean, the part I really like is that it was understated for a Lynch movie, and for a Disney movie too.
Really, this feels so much like a Disney movie to me. Like it never stops
I think
feeling.
It does in isolation, but if you held it up next to a Disney movie and really saw how thick they lay it on in a Disney movie, generally.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
I think they lay it on pretty thick in this movie.
I like that.
I think the movie is the epitome of restraint compared to that.
I saw I saw one of my favorite films is actually Invincible, which is a Disney film about the guy who played football for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is just it's maudlin. It is big strings and heartfelt stuff, and there's some silliness to it, but that's more along the Disney line. That's a Disney film.
No, but I
So
found
this
myself
is not.
thinking
This
it
is
just
like
But Disney
makes
didn't make
the
this.
first one that was
They
maudlin.
distributed it.
well,
They
I wonder if
paid
they had,
to
I wonder if they did
distribute
anything.
it.
I wonder if they did anything to it. I guess it
No,
is. Wow, that's
they
something.
just
Mhm.
it did so well at Con that they just showed up and
You
was
just
like,
picked it
"Here's
up.
some money. We're going to distribute
Well,
it."
maybe he's.
Jim, what did you find yourself thinking? I didn't hear
Yeah, me
you
too. Sorry,
over
Jim.
the general din. You said I found myself thinking, and then I couldn't.
Oh, I found myself thinking at various points that it was quite sentimental, but it was never maudlin.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't like cross the
Right.
Yeah, not easy to do, man. All right,
My
well,
favorite painter is Edward Hopper.
oh,
Yeah.
And
Same
my
here.
favorite painting of Edward Hopper is, I think it's called Early
Night.
Sunday Morning or something.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of scenes in this movie that felt like Edward Hopper paintings come to life for me.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely. All right, well, let's go to the cards.
I like this movie.
10 stars.
All right, all the way down or all the way
All
up?
the way down.
Okay, good enough.
Well,
All of my fingers are up.
Okay.
Extra thumb from Jim.
I'll take the majority.
Yeah.
All right.
Now,
So-
Scott, because I have not seen this movie, this goes straight to the top of the best movies I saw this year.
Damn, thank you, man.
Okay.
Wow, that's so nice.